The space bazaar on Vetra 9 was always loud and crowded, filled with strange smells and glowing signs from every corner. Creatures from every part of the galaxy moved like a sea of colors, shouting, trading, laughing, but Jack Rayner walked alone, his face calm, his eyes alert. He was not there for business, not this time. He just needed spare parts for his ship. But the noise around him did not let him think clearly. Everyone wanted something. Everyone tried to sell him junk or lies. Then he heard Ida's small voice, lost in the chaos, a voice too soft for the crowd to care, but it made Jack stop. His boots froze on the metallic floor, his ears strained. "Please adopt me, human." He turned his head slowly, trying to see where it came from. Again the voice came softer this time, almost like a whisper. "Please adopt me." He pushed through the crowd, following the sound between two stalls. He saw a small cage, and beside it a young alien girl sitting on the cold ground. Her arms hugged her knees, her long silver hair tangled and dirty, her skin pale with glowing blue lines like veins, her eyes large and full of fear. She looked up and saw him. Her lips moved again, but no sound came this time. Jack crouched down and looked at her closely. "How old are you?" he asked, his voice low and gentle. She did not answer. Instead she showed him her hand, 5 fingers small and trembling, her skin bruised and marked. "Whose child is this?" Jack asked the nearby vendor, a fat green alien with 4 eyes and a too wide grin. "That one is not for you, human. Go find something else," the vendor said, waving his hand. "She said she wants to be adopted," Jack replied, his eyes narrowing. The vendor laughed, a hard, ugly laugh. "She says that to everyone. She's just a worthless stray left behind by slavers, hungry, useless. Forget her." Jack looked back at the girl. He saw something in her eyes, something no one else seemed to notice, hope and pain mixed in one look. "What is her name?" he asked again. "She has no name, not anymore," the vendor replied. "Just a number on the collar." Jack leaned closer and saw the metal tag around her neck. It said 3x7, nothing more. "How much for her?" Jack asked, his voice cold. "Now you want to buy her?" The vendor raised a brow. "Humans are not allowed to own slaves in this sector." "Then what is she doing here like this?" Jack asked louder, his voice rising. Vendor hissed and looked around. "Fine, take her. Give me 100 credits and leave before someone reports you." Jack threw the credits at him, grabbed the small girl gently and picked her up. She did not resist. Her tiny body felt weightless in his arms. Her head rested against his chest as if she had been waiting for this moment. "You are free now," he whispered to her. As they walked back to his ship, the crowd slowly cleared around them. No one stopped him. No one helped either. Some looked away, some just watched, but no one cared inside his ship. Jack sat her on a soft seat and brought her water. She drank it quickly and looked at him with wide eyes. "Thank you," she said at last. "What is your name?" he asked. She paused, then said softly, "Nalia." Jack smiled. "Well, Nalia, you are safe here." She looked down at her hands. They were shaking. "Will they come for me?" she asked. "Who? The ones who put me in the cage?" she said. "They always come back." Jack looked at the scanner, but nothing was following them yet. "Do you have family, anyone I can contact?" She shook her head. "I was taken from my planet. I don't remember anything else." Jack stood up and walked to the cockpit, starting the engines. He needed to leave Vetra 9 quickly. Something about this felt wrong too. Easy like a trap, Nalia sat quietly, her eyes watching every movement. Her small fingers held the edge of the seat tightly. Jack looked at her again. She looked more fragile than any child he had seen, but something told him she was stronger than she looked. As the ship lifted into space, Nalia closed her eyes and whispered, "Thank you." Again Jack did not answer. He just stared at the stars ahead, but deep down he felt something strange, something warm and dangerous, a feeling he had not felt in a long time. Responsibility. Somewhere far behind them in the darkness, a small red light blinked on a hidden device under the cage at the bazaar. The signal was sent, the tracker activated. They knew who took her. They were coming. The ship floated quietly in deep space, far from the bright noise of Vetra 9 silence. Wrapped around them like a soft blanket, only the low hum of the engine filled the air inside. Jack walked slowly toward the back, where Nalia sat curled under a warm thermal blanket, her tiny frame shivering, not from cold, but from fear. He Brought her food, simple protein cubes and warm liquid. She looked at them, then at him, then took one piece with both hands and nibbled like a wild thing, not sure if it was safe. He sat near her, careful not to move too fast. He had seen creatures panic from kindness before. He did not want her to feel afraid. "Were you doing there?" he asked, his voice calm, not demanding. "They left me there," she replied, eyes still on her food. "They told me someone would buy me, or I would be recycled." Jack felt something twist inside him. Not anger, not sadness, something deeper, something dark and hot, like fire hidden in his chest. "Recycle," he repeated, like a question, though he already understood. She nodded. "They said my mind was not working right. They tried to fix it, but I screamed too much, so they gave up." He leaned back, ran a hand through his messy hair, and sighed without sound. "Do you remember where you came from?" he asked again. She shook her head. "I was small. I only remember bright rooms and voices, too loud to hear, and pain, lots of pain." Jack looked at her skin. Blue lines glowed faintly along her arms, like circuits, like something not fully natural. He stood, walked to the medkit, and returned with a scan device. "May I check something?" he asked, showing her the device. "It will not hurt." She stared at it for a long moment, then nodded, slowly lifting her sleeve. He scanned her arm and frowned. "No ID chip, number, planet code, only one strange marking hidden under her skin, like a locked file." He had seen something like this before, long ago, during the war. "Stand up for a second, please," he said gently. She obeyed and turned around. Her back faced him. He froze there. Across her shoulder blades, burned into her flesh, was a symbol he knew too well, a circle with a line through it, glowing slightly under her skin. "Obsidian circle," he whispered under his breath. "They were not slavers. They were worse. They were a secret group of tech lords and bioscientists who worked in shadows, building weapons, using children as test subjects, trying to unlock mind powers through cruel experiments." Jack had seen their work before, once on a moon colony where the air screamed from the minds of broken kids. He thought they were gone, destroyed by the Galactic Senate. But this brand told a different story. He stepped back, his face pale, his heart beating fast. "What is it?" she asked, her voice soft, almost scared. "Nothing you need to worry about," he replied too quickly. "Sit back down. You are safe now." She watched him closely, eyes sharp, like she did not believe him fully, then leaned against the wall, her arms around her knees again. "You think I am a weapon?" she asked in a whisper. Jack sat across from her. "No, I think you are a child who deserves a real life. But what if they made me wrong? What if I break people when I sleep?" she asked. "I had dreams before, and someone screamed in the next room. Then they stopped giving me pillows." Jack took a deep breath, stood and walked to the front of the ship. He looked at the scanner. Something blinked at the edge of the screen. A small red dot, steady and slow, following them. He opened the ship's code logs and found a new signal active, hidden deep in the comm system, a tracker from Vetra 9. "They are following us," he muttered to himself. "Of course they are. They never let their toys go." He returned to her, lifted her gently from the floor, and carried her to the hidden room behind the engine bay. It was small, dark, and shielded from scanners. "Stay here, do not come out unless I say so," he told her. She looked up at him. "Why?" "Because I need to make sure they never take you again," he replied. She reached up, touched his cheek with small fingers. "You are not like the others." "Neither are you," he answered with a faint smile. He sealed the door, turned back and walked to the cockpit. His hands moved fast, setting new course codes, activating jammers, changing power flow patterns. Would not run far, not yet. First he needed answers. Then he needed a place where they could hide, where they could breathe without fear. Behind him, the red dot on the scanner grew brighter, closer. They were coming, and he was ready. Jack slammed the thruster lever forward, and the ship jumped into motion. Stars stretched into long lines as they entered hyperspeed. But peace was short. The red dot was still there, following too closely, too smoothly. This was not an amateur, not a random bounty hunter. This was something else. He looked at the NFV map and saw only one choice: the Helian ice belt, a frozen graveyard of broken ships and sharp, spinning crystals. Only mad pilots dared enter it, and even fewer came out alive. But Jack was desperate, and desperate men make dangerous moves. He opened the hidden compartment and pulled out a cold-weather flight suit, then rushed to the hidden room where Nalia waited, curled in the corner. Her eyes half closed, she looked up when he entered. "We have to fly through a dangerous place," he said. "Do you trust Mesh?" Nodded without a word. He helped her into a smaller version of the suit, then led her to the co-pilot seat. Her hands shook as she buckled in. "What is that place?" she asked. "Ice belt," he replied. "Sharp frozen chunks of death floating together." She looked out the window at the growing field of glittering ice ahead, each shard spinning slowly like stars made of glass eye. "Know this place," she whispered. "I saw it once from a cage." Window Jack glanced at her. "You flew through it, no? But the men who owned me did once. They hid something there," she said, her voice soft like wind. Ship shook as it entered the field. Sharp turns, rough pulls, engines screaming under pressure. Jack gritted his teeth and focused his hands steady, his breath slow. The enemy ship followed too fast, too sure. It began firing energy blasts, blue streaks passing near their hull, each one a warning. "They are not trying to kill us," Jack thought. "They want the girl alive." He flipped a switch and released the first decoy pod. A fake signal burst in the opposite direction. The enemy paused just enough. Jack dove the ship under a spinning ice ring, narrowly avoiding collision. "Hold on," he shouted and twisted the controls. Again, metal groaned. The ship's left side scraped a frozen rock. Sparks flew inside the panels, but they kept flying. Nelia closed her eyes. Her lips moved like she was counting in another language. Then suddenly she shouted, "Left now." Jack obeyed without thinking. The ship spun left and dodged a giant ice slab that appeared from nowhere. His heart pounded hard. "How did you know that?" he asked, breathless. "I felt it," she said, confused like a dream. "Before it happens." Jack stared at her, then looked forward. Again they had to keep moving. Another red dot appeared on the scanner. A second enemy ship, faster, smaller, deadlier. "They are calling for backup," he said. "We need a plan." He reached under the seat and pulled out a set of magnetic mines, rare and old. Powerful. He had 5 left, enough to make a trap if timed right. Nelia pointed at a narrow tunnel between 2 massive ice columns. "Go there. It curves around like a circle. They will follow." Jack nodded, flew toward it, weaving through smaller shards. The ship shook from every angle. The walls of ice drew closer and closer until it felt like flying through a frozen throat. They passed through the tunnel, and at the exit Jack dropped 3 mines, 1, 2, 3, then pulled up fast into the higher ring layer. The first enemy ship entered the tunnel, chasing without care. The mines beeped once, then exploded in silence, sending frozen rocks in all directions. A wave of white light followed by black smoke. "One down," Jack muttered, but no time to rest. Second ship fired again, this time hitting the rear shield. Warning lights flashed inside, red and angry. Jack felt the heat behind him. Then Nalia touched the screen, her fingers glowing faint blue. She closed her eyes and whispered something again. Strange symbols formed on the scanner. Jack watched in shock as the enemy ship appeared to slow its path, erratic, as if confused or blinded. "Are you doing?" he asked. "I do not know," she replied. "I just want them to stop." She opened her eyes, her face pale, her lips dry. But the effect worked. The ship drifted left and collided with a hidden ice spike. Its hull cracked and spun away. Silence returned for a moment. The scanner showed no more threats. Jack pulled them out of the field into clear space. He checked the ship damage, minor, the engine whining, but alive. He turned to her. "You saved us." She looked down. "Maybe I broke something again." "No. You protected us. There is a difference," he said. She did not reply, but her shoulders relaxed just a little. Jack leaned back, closed his eyes for a moment, then reached over and gave her a protein bar. "You earned this more than I did," he said. She smiled for the first time, a small, unsure thing, but real. Outside, the stars moved past them, cold and bright behind them. The ice belt shimmered like a memory. Ahead lay unknown paths, but for now they were free. The ship came out of hyperspeed near a dead world called Red Hollow, once rich with metal and mining, but now covered in dust, rust, and forgotten dreams. The sky was orange. The clouds moved slow like smoke. Nothing lived here, not on purpose at least. Jack steered the ship toward a hidden cave where signals could not pass through the walls, thick with iron and old tech. He landed rough, but safe. Steam hissed From under the ship, and dust rose like a ghost around them. He powered everything down and turned to Nalia, who still sat holding her seat. Quietly, "We are safe for now," he said. "Is this your home?" She asked, looking at the rusty cave outside. "No, just a place no one wants to visit," he replied with a tired voice. He opened the hatch and helped her step outside. The air was dry, the ground cracked under their boots. Jack scanned the area and found no signs of life, only shadows of machines long dead inside. The cave, he activated old power lines. Lights flickered on, showing a room full of scrap broken tools and a table covered with maps. Brought Nalia inside, sat her near a heat lamp, and gave her water. She drank slowly, her hands steady now, not shaking. "Like before, why did they mark you?" he asked while checking the scanner again. She looked at the wall, not answering at first, then said, "I think they wanted to turn my mind into something else. They kept saying I was a rare type, that I could bend thoughts." Jack paused, his hand frozen above the console. He had heard of such projects years ago. During the war, whispers of psychic weapons, children forced to destroy with their minds. "Did you ever hurt anyone?" he asked softly. She closed her eyes. "I do not remember fully, but sometimes I dream, and the dreams are full of screams. I do not want to hurt, I just want to be normal." Jack sat beside her, put a blanket over her shoulders, and said, "You are not a weapon. You are a girl, and right now you are under my care. That makes you my responsibility, and my family." She looked at him, her eyes wide and confused. No one ever said that before, not even the kind ones outside the cave. Wind howled across the barren land. Jack knew time was short. The obsidian circle did not give up. They would track him again. He needed help, and there was only one person he could trust in this part of space. Opened a long dead comm unit, rewired it quickly, and sent a hidden pulse message, coded and silent. He waited 5 minutes. Then 10. The screen blinked alive. A face appeared, wrinkled, grumpy, but sharp, still running from ghosts. "Jack," the man asked, "this one is real, an old circle brand on a child?" Jack replied. The man frowned. "Send me the scan," he said. Jack uploaded the data. The man's face went pale. "This is not just any brand, this is level 6. They only marked prototypes. This girl was part of the core project. Can you hide us?" Jack asked. "Not for long, but I know someone on HFY Station who deals with identity wipes and family papers. If you want to adopt her fully, you need those documents fast," the man said. "How long to get there?" 6 hours at full speed, maybe less, if you cut through the storm belt. "Thanks, old friend," Jack said, and ended the call. He turned back to Nalia, who watched him with quiet eyes. "We are going to a place where I can make you part of my life in truth, not just in words," he said. "Will they still come for me?" she asked again. "Maybe, but next time they will find us ready," he replied. He led her back to the ship, checked the engines, made quick fixes, then lifted off into the fading light. The ship rose above the red rocks and entered the dark clouds. Above, as they flew, Nalia looked out the window and said softly, "This planet feels sad." "Yes," Jack said, "but even sad places can hide hope." Suddenly alarms beeped. A small craft had entered orbit, following their path. Jack cursed under his breath, then flipped the ship into evasive mode. It was a bounty hunter ship, painted black with no markings. Sleek and fast, made for catching runners like him. The hunter fired a warning shot. Jack spun left, dodged a second blast, and fired back with a rear pulse cannon. The shot missed, but shook the hunter off for a moment. Nalia closed her eyes again, whispering her strange words. Lights flickered on the enemy ship, then dimmed. It slowed, confused like before. "Keep doing that," Jack said. "Just a little longer. I cannot hold it long," she said, her voice strained. Jack fired 2 more shots. One hit the wing, and the ship spun away, not destroyed but damaged enough to stop chasing. They pushed forward. Stars stretched again as they jumped to hyperspeed once more, heading toward HFY Station, toward safety, toward something new. Jack looked at Nalia, her head resting on the seat, her eyes tired, her small hand holding the edge of his jacket. For the first time in years, he felt like he was not alone. HFY Station spun slowly above a gas giant, glowing orange and gold, its surface wrapped in storms and lightning. The station was old, shaped like a wheel patched together with tech from many worlds. It was a place where laws bent like metal, where People with no names found new ones where questions were rare and secrets were sold cheap. Jack landed the ship in a private dock and powered everything down. The engine hissed like a tired animal. He looked at Nelia, who still slept in her seat, her hand still gripping his sleeve, her face calm for once. He touched her shoulder gently. "Wake up, we are here." She blinked her eyes open, looked around and whispered, "Is it safe?" "Now," he replied, "but stay close and do not speak unless I say." They stepped out into the docking bay. Cool air brushed their faces. The hallway lights flickered blue and yellow. The floor echoed with every step. Jack walked fast. Nelia followed like a shadow, small, quiet, alert. At the end of the corridor stood a tall woman with silver skin and mechanical eyes. Her name was Mira, once a soldier, now a fixer. She looked at Jack, then at the girl, then back at Jack again. "You sure about this?" she asked, her voice flat. "Yes," Jack answered, no hesitation in his tone. She nodded. "Follow me." They entered a side room, quiet and dim, filled with old machines, screens, buzzing, papers floating through the air like lazy snow. Mira sat behind a metal desk, pulled out a scanner and pointed it at Nelia. "Name?" she asked. "Nelia," the girl answered. Softly, Jack placed a hand on her shoulder and said, "Full name will be Nelia Rayner." Mira raised an eyebrow. "Adopting her officially means you take all risk if anyone claims her later. You must protect her or face punishment." "I know," Jack said. "She is mine now." Mira typed fast, her fingers moving like lightning, screens filled with forms, numbers, symbols. Jack signed each one without reading them. Trust was rare, but in this room, he had no other choice. After 10 minutes, Mira looked up and said, "Papers are done. She is now legally your daughter in 5 systems. More will follow once the data syncs." Jack exhaled, slow, not from relief, but from weight lifting off his chest. "Thank you," he said. "You still have a problem," Mira replied. "The Obsidian Circle has marked her. They will not care about legal forms. They will come with guns." Jack nodded. "I will be ready." Mira leaned closer. "I heard a whisper from the dark net. Someone placed a bounty not on the girl, on you, dead or alive." Jack froze for a moment, then asked who. "No name, just a symbol, same as her back." He looked at Nelia. She met his gaze, her eyes wide but steady. "Do not worry," he said to her. "No one is taking you from me." They left the office and returned to the ship. The hallway now felt different. Eyes watched them from corners. Shadows moved like thoughts. Jack knew they were marked now, not just her, but both of them. Inside the ship, he locked all doors, checked all systems, then sat beside Nelia, who held the adoption card in her hands. "What does this mean?" she asked. "It means you belong somewhere now," he replied. "It means you have someone who will stand for you. Will you protect me always?" she asked again. He looked at her, then said, "Always." She smiled just a little, then placed the card in her pocket. An alarm beeped on the console. Jack rushed forward and saw the screen. A tracker had been activated. Someone was near, someone who knew the ship's signature, someone from the Circle. He powered up the engines fast, but before they could lift the dock gate closed shut. Metal slammed down, lights turned red. "They locked us in," Jack muttered. "They are here." He grabbed a pulse rifle, tossed a smaller weapon to Nelia, and said, "Stay behind me. If I fall, run, and do not look back." She gripped the weapon, but her hands shook. "I do not want to lose you," she said. "You will not," he replied. "Not today." A loud sound echoed through the dock. Heavy boots, lasers charging, voices shouting, then silence followed by one word: "Surrender." Jack stepped forward, his rifle ready, aimed at the gate, which hissed open, revealing 3 masked soldiers with black armor, marked with the Obsidian Circle. Behind them stood a man, tall, with pale eyes and a voice like metal. "Give us the girl, and you live," Jack answered. With one move, he fired his rifle. The shot hit the front soldier hard, sending him down. The other 2 returned fire. Jack dodged, rolled, and fired again. One fell, the other took cover. Nelia closed her eyes and whispered again, her voice low. The enemy soldier dropped his weapon and held his head, screaming, then collapsed. Only the pale man stood now, his hand glowing with energy. But Nelia stepped beside Jack, her eyes bright, her hands raised. She spoke one word, and the man froze, eyes wide, then fell back unconscious. Jack stared at her. "What did you do?" "I told him to sleep," she said softly. Jack took her hand, squeezed it once, then opened the gate. They ran back to the ship, lifted off into black space engines. Roaring behind them, Halver Station vanished behind them, but they carried something new ahead, not just names, not just survival, but something stronger. They carried each other. The stars moved fast as Jack's ship raced toward the outer rim, beyond safe zones, beyond trade lines. He headed for a forgotten place, known only to veterans and ghosts, a military outpost called Nova Reach, once a beacon during the war, now left in silence, floating above a cracked moon with cannons that still worked, and soldiers who followed no orders but their own. Jack sent a code, not through public channels, but an old encrypted link used long ago by those who once bled together in the dirt of broken worlds. He waited 10 long minutes, then the response came, 3 words just like old times. He smiled slightly and guided the ship down through thick clouds toward a dark spire that rose from the moon's surface. Guns tracked him as he landed, but no shots fired. Instead, 2 armored men stood waiting as the hatch opened, and Jack stepped out with Nalia behind him. One of the men removed his helmet, revealing a face carved by time and war. His name was Cole, once Jack's commander, now the last guardian of this forgotten fortress. "You brought trouble," Jack, Cole said, his eyes moving to the girl. "I brought family," Jack replied, "and she needs protection." Cole looked at Nalia, saw the fear and fire in her eyes, then nodded. "Bring her inside." "But this place is no safe home." "I know," Jack said, "but it is our best chance inside Nova Reach." Old walls hummed with energy. Old weapons still slept in racks. Old machines waited for hands they could trust. Jack and Nalia followed Cole through metal halls, past empty bunks, past broken metals, past photos of faces long gone. They entered the control room, where screens showed empty stars and slow-moving ships. Jack uploaded the data on the obsidian circle, their movements, their reach, their hunger. Cole watched, then asked, "Why is she so important?" "Because they built her to end worlds," Jack said. "But she just wants to be a child." Cole nodded again, then said, "If they come here, they will not leave breathing." Jack smiled faintly again. "Thank you, old friend." He took Nalia to a small room with a bed and a window. She sat there watching the sky, while Jack stood near the door. "Do you think this place will hold?" she asked. "I think it will hold better than most," he said. She looked down. "I feel like I am danger to everyone around me." "You are not danger, you are worth protecting," Jack said with full voice. She looked at him, then walked over and hugged him, her arms tight around his chest. "You feel like home," she whispered. Alarms sounded across the station. Red lights flashed. The main screen showed ships dropping from hyperspace, fast and heavy, at least 6 marked with the circle logo. Cole appeared again, armored and ready. "They brought a fleet," he said. "Then we give them a welcome they never forget." Jack replied, already moving to the defense panel. Nalia followed, but Jack stopped her. "Stay here, no matter what." She nodded slowly, but her eyes showed worry and strength mixed together. Jack and Cole ran to the outer ring, where cannons powered up shields, rows and auto turrets locked on targets. The enemy ships opened fire. Energy blasts hit the shield walls, shaking the entire base. "Return fire," Cole shouted, and the sky lit with bright arcs of power. Missiles streaked and beams danced across space. One enemy ship exploded, then another, but the remaining 4 pushed harder, landing dropships full of soldiers. "They are coming inside," Jack said. "Get ready." He grabbed a rifle and took cover near the main gate. Explosions rocked the ground. Soldiers in black armor rushed forward, firing without mercy. Jack fired back, dropping 3 before they reached cover inside the base. Cole fought like a beast, roaring commands, holding lines with old veterans who had nothing left. But pride. A blast shook the main hall, and then the door near Nalia's room broke open. She screamed and raised her hand. Power surged around her. The soldiers who entered dropped their weapons and held their heads, screaming before falling silent. She stepped out, walked down the hall, past their bodies toward the battlefield, her feet bare, her eyes glowing blue. Jack saw her and shouted, "Go back, it is not safe." She walked forward, slowly, calmly, then raised both hands and whispered words no one else could hear. The sky turned quiet. The ships above froze in. Space engines died. Weapons powered down one by one. They drifted useless in orbit. The soldiers still standing dropped their guns and stared confused as if waking from a nightmare. Cole looked at her in awe. What is she? She is hope, Jack said, breathing hard. Nalia turned to him and smiled. Her legs gave out, but Jack caught her before she fell. It is done, she whispered. Yes, it is, he said, holding her close. The enemy was defeated, not with fire, not with steel, but with the will of a child who wanted to be more than a weapon. Nova Reach stood strong again, and above it the stars blinked in silence. Nova Reach returned to quiet after the storm. Metal halls no longer shook. Weapons no longer roared. The stars above looked peaceful again. But inside the old station, something new was growing. Not fear, not sorrow, but something warm, something rare. Jack sat beside the medical pod watching Nalia sleep, her body small inside the glowing capsule, her breathing slow, her hands folded near her chest. The doctor said she was stable, but drained. Her powers had pushed too far, too fast. Now only rest could heal her mind and body. He had not moved for hours, only sat there listening to her soft breath, watching every twitch, every blink, every tiny sign of life. He remembered the first moment he saw her in that cage, forgotten and silent. Now she lay here, surrounded by care, by warmth, by someone who refused to let her go. Cole entered the room. His armor scratched his face, tired, but his eyes calm. Circle is gone for now, he said. Those ships drifted too far to recover, and the survivors surrendered. Without fight, no one wants to face that girl again. She is not a threat, Jack replied, his voice rough. She is just a child who needed someone to care. Cole nodded. You gave her that. Maybe that is what made her strong. Jack stood, walked over to the window, where stars drifted like dreams. He stared for a long time, then asked, what now? Cole shrugged. Stay as long as you like. This station owes you both more than words. Jack looked back at Nalia, then said, she needs a real home, not just metal walls and cold lights. She needs trees, books, a pet, maybe friends. Then take her. Jack. Cole said, you have always known where home is. Jack smiled faintly, then returned to her side. He took her hand in his, held it gently like glass. He whispered stories about Earth, about forests and oceans, about music and snow, about silly things like candy and dancing. She did not wake, but her fingers moved just a little. The next morning she opened her eyes, slowly, light filling them. Her lips parted, and the first word she spoke was small, soft, full of meaning. Dad. Jack froze, then smiled wide, his throat tight, his heart heavy and light at the same time. He bent close and whispered, yes, I am here. She touched his face, her fingers weak but warm. I dreamed I was flying, she said, over mountains and clouds. You were holding my hand. Maybe it was not a dream, he replied. Maybe it was a memory from tomorrow. She laughed a little and said, I like that. Jack helped her sit up, gave her water, and covered her with a soft blanket. Cole entered again, this time with a small box for her. He said, handing it to Jack. What is it? Jack asked. A name tag and citizenship card, forged with care, stamped with truth. She is now legally Nalia Rayner, daughter of Jack Rayner, protected by old codes and old friends. Nalia held the card in her hands, stared at it for a long time, then smiled. I have a name, she said, and a dad. They spent 3 more days at Nova Reach, healing, resting, planning. Cole gave them supplies, fuel, and a small garden pod with soil from Earth. Jack added books, tools, and a kitten named Luna, who purred like thunder and slept beside Nalia every night. When it was time to leave, the whole base gathered at the dock. Soldiers, old and young, saluted as the hatch closed. Jack waved once, Nalia waved twice, her eyes bright, her heart full. The ship lifted into the stars, slow and smooth, heading toward a quiet planet at the edge of the system, where green hills touched blue skies and silence meant peace, not danger. They landed near a lake where birds sang and wind moved through trees. Jack built a small home with his own hands, strong walls, wide windows, soft beds and shelves full of stories. Nalia planted flowers beside the door, named them after stars, fed Luna every morning, chased butterflies in the fields, and sometimes sat under the sky whispering to it. Like an old friend, Jack watched her grow day by day, smile by smile. He taught her how to fish, how to cook, how to build things from junk. She taught him how to listen, how to dream, how to believe again. One night, as stars filled the sky, they sat on the porch, watching the moon rise. She leaned against him, her head on his shoulder, her voice quiet, but sure. "Thank you for choosing me," she said. "Thank you for asking me to," he replied. They sat like that for a long time, no words needed, just warmth and breath and light. Galaxy still held danger, still whispered with shadows. But in this corner carved from hope, one child and one man had found each other and built something stronger than fear. They built a family,